everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're starting the decorating of my brand new island. This is Utopia, which is my industrial evil factory island, and I need to set the tone of what this island is going to be. So we're starting out with making the entrance to this island, and I thought I would show you how it turned out. The idea of this island has been floating around in my head for a while, as I wanted to do an industrial island, but I had no idea how I was going to do one until I sat down and thought about what I'd made on my abandoned city island Disturbia, and I realised I could tell the story of what happened which caused the downfall which led to Disturbia. The way this island is going to be set up is going to be very different from anything else that I've worked on so far. Normally with Animal Crossing islands, you find the entire island is decorated, and that factors in all of the curves and bumps that each of the islands have. This island instead is going to be a massive square, and is going to be a complete factory which has a clean look on the outside and all of the story happens inside. If you've ever walked around a city, you'll know there are these skyscrapers that go up a really long way into the sky, and I thought it would be fun to showcase some of the stories which can happen in the corporations which exist in those skyscrapers. So to create that look in Animal Crossing, I needed to do two things. The first thing was to create a road which would act as the main route for all of the vehicles on this island, and also to make cutouts within the road to create things like a car park for the factory workers and an entrance to the corporation, which is where you as the dreamer will be going into. The reason why they exist on this island will become apparent as I continue to build out Utopia, so if you want to see how this evil factory comes together, don't forget to subscribe so that you see when the next video goes live for this island. The second thing I needed to do was create a factory entrance for this island, and this is where the fun happens in this build. I'm going to need a lot of simple panels, and by a lot, I mean several hundreds, if not closing in on thousands. What you're seeing here is only a really small selection of the number of simple panels that I used on the entrance itself. The factory is going to be enclosed by simple panels which have a glass code on it to make it look like some of those large skyscrapers in inner cities. It's quite normal to use simple panels to make fake buildings, and in terms of Animal Crossing, simple panels are a staple item to do that. However, despite having made small fake buildings in the past, I've not tried to make a building on a massive scale. So my industrial island is going to be a real challenge for me. Not only do I have to make something which doesn't look monotonous, I also have to make sure that the island stands out in its own right. In order to do that for this island, I knew I was going to have to make the base of the factory more decorated, because if it just looks like a single pattern on a simple panel over and over again on 3 levels, it's not going to look great. By decorating the base out and filling in some of the empty spaces and breaking up the sight lines, it allows the eye to be drawn in a different direction, which is more what I want to be achieving for this island. So to make the base of the factory look more realistic and not as flat, I decided to revisit some of the memories I have of working in corporations based in cities which had a load of small businesses around that you could pop into to get lunch or have a small shop on your lunch break. I had originally thought I would just put down Nooks and Ables here and call that a day when I decorated them out, and then I realised they weren't actually going to fit in with the rest of the island easily, because who is realistically going to shop for their lunch in something like Nook's Cranny in the middle of a factory? So the best place for both of these shops is as part of the entrance. However, I do have some interesting plans for the museum, so if you want to see what I'm thinking for Blathers, that's going to be put into a future video, and I'm really excited to see how Blathers' story turns out with the rest of this island. To try and make the shops fit in more seamlessly, I decided to create a number of small stalls outside to show a bit more of the variety in some of the small businesses which you can find outside these large companies. I've added in a market stall which is selling soup as a means of capturing some hungry factory workers on their lunch break. There's a fruit and veg stall because occasionally you do find farmers markets outside some of these large corporations in inner cities. And I've also included a book stand as part of this build because sometimes you need a bit of an escape from working in a large company, and everyone loves a good book. Some of the best books I've read are ones that I've enjoyed on my lunch breaks. What's the best book you've read so far this year? I'm always looking for new book recommendations, so if you have some interesting books that you've absolutely loved that I need to check out, please do let me know what they are in the comments below. Originally, I was planning to just add all of these businesses in between Nooks and Ables, and then I looked at the space again and realised that it was actually pretty small and it would look really flat if I didn't break up the skyline a bit. So I decided to play around with this amazing road code I'd found during my custom code shop and make a bus stop instead. I noticed that although I'd added in a road and a parking lot for the workers to use, I hadn't factored in anything for the factory workers who were going to use public transport instead. So as the space here is pretty tight and I couldn't make a bustling market like I thought I was going to do, I decided to make a bus stop instead. But I still added in a couple of stalls as well to make this not look as flat as it would look if it was just the bus stop. When I look back at this build now, to be honest, I definitely turned this part of the entrance into a no tile left behind situation, and that wasn't the intention at all. But I think it works here. There isn't anything for you to walk around and see in this part of the build, so it tells enough of the story I'm trying to convey on its own without me trying to make it into something which you have to walk around. But I feel like you also need some builds like this because it then fills in the space and makes your island look more polished and put together as you continue to decorate your island. It was at this point that I realised just how big of a task I was taking on with making a single building in Animal Crossing and adding all of the main story inside the building. Not only had I used a load of simple panels, I then started working with fences to enclose the island. There is a reason for doing this. The thoughts I have for this island is that Marlowe is very much preventing people from leaving this factory unless they're authorised. So for Marlowe to keep everything under wraps, he is making sure that the factory is fenced off and you aren't going anywhere you aren't supposed to go. However, this has the same issue that I've had with using a load of simple panels. My island starts to look very samey. So to split it up and make it look like it fits in a little bit more, I've used round street lights and hedges to just break up the footpath and make it not look too much like a prison. The story here is that Marlowe has invited you as the dreamer to look around the factory to see the future of Animal Crossing villagers. He really believes in the value of the work he's doing here, and he wants you to have the best impressions of what he's doing. Hence why the factory is going to be clean on the outside and has a polished appearance, which gives the impression that absolutely nothing untoward is going on here. That's why the front of the factory has to look like it's the perfect corporation which is delivering what people want, even though, as we will discover as the island continues to be built out, there's a lot of interesting things going on which are not exactly cute and cuddly. From there, I had all of the main elements down for the entrance, and all that was left to do was fill in some of the empty spaces to make the entrance really come together. For the main factory entrance, which is the one you're going to be able to walk in and use that to walk around the island, I built out the perfect turning circle to go around the entrance and created a parking space for our big boss of the island and filled in the rest of the space with the iron and stone fencing to make something which, looking at it now, looks exactly like some of the company entrances I've seen in my time working in corporations. I didn't quite know how to make a clear parking space for Marlowe as I wanted to use his photo to indicate the space, but there wasn't really an easy way for me to give this the height that I needed. The only option I could really think of for this purpose was to use a cube light, which I customized with one of the codes I'm going to use in the main factory when I get around to decorating that. But if you've got any other suggestions of items which would work for this job, please do let me know as I'm open to swapping this out for something else. I then worked my way around the factory's car park and added in some small details to make it look like there was some life on the island with people walking around the factory. I found the evergreen ash in my storage after a number of Treasure Island runs, which felt like it was the perfect item to go outside Able Sisters. And then I added down some extra items which I hadn't used before on an island, including the fire hydrant and the iron frames. I still don't really know why I never used these on my abandoned city island. They would have been perfect there. But I guess I'm making up for it now by adding them into my industrial island, and I really think they work here. I am so excited for this island and to see how it all comes together. I've never worked on an island like this, which has a really strong vision for telling one story, and I'm really looking forward to designing an industrial island which is very different in its approach from the cute and cuddly cottagecore islands that you typically find in Animal Crossing New Horizons. If you want to see some of the custom codes I'm using for this island and why I'm really excited to see how this island is going to turn out, you should check out this video next where I went looking for the best custom codes for this island. And I'll see you over there.